Alright guys, welcome to the Naughty Fisherman. Today I'm going to be doing the improved clinch knot. Personally, it is my favorite type of knot to tie for a couple reasons. One is that there's a number of variations you can do, just depending on how you want to modify this knot. I'm only going to be covering the main one in this video, just so you guys get the hang of the basics. I will do a video down the road where we do the different type of variations and just focus on those. But for now, I'm going to start with what is generally seen as the usual way of tying this knot. Some of the benefits to this particular knot over some of the other knots I do is that this one's really easy for anyone to learn. To put this in perspective, I was using it for 3 to 4 years before I even figured out what it was called. So, if I can tie it without even knowing what it is called beyond a knot, it's got to be at least decently easy, right? Other than that, I would say it is one of the strongest beginner knots, if not one of the strongest knots overall. It can be tied once you get the hang of it in about 30 seconds to maybe a minute and 10 seconds. I think the fastest I've ever tied it was one of the variations, and I had my line brought in, took the fish off, cut the line because the line was trashed, and had it retied in 35-40 seconds. So it is easy. As long as you follow a few simple rules, you will not get hooked. So beyond that, let's go ahead and get started. Alright guys, so here's the practice part of this video. Once again, this is probably my favorite knot to tie, the improved clinch knot. So one piece of advice I would give you guys when you are starting with this knot is to actually keep your main line with either pressure or just keep it taut so it's tight. It will help when you start doing your twists, because otherwise it likes to twist around itself, which causes the knot to get a little harder to tie. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to take our hook, and this time we're going to go in through the back of the eyelet. I do this personally because as a right-handed knot tyer, for me this is just more comfortable and a lot easier to keep track of. Do it however you prefer. If you tie your knots left-handed, do it with whatever method works for you. If you're right-handed like me, I would say this is the easier method. Alright, so now we're going to take our tag end up here, and we're going to pass it off to our right hand. What this does is it puts your tag end right above your main line. This will make it easier to keep track of as you go. And then I like to put my pointer finger right here down by the eyelet just to kind of help me with holding that loop. And then I like to pinch these two fingers together to keep that loop open. Just friendly little tip there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our tag end. We're going to go around it once. We're doing this 5 times, guys. Twice. 3 times. Now I can already feel the pressure right here, which is why I have them pinched together. It's just easier to pull your fingers back and actually catch the loop than it is to try and save it later. So we're going to go ahead and do 4. And as you can see, this one's trying to go with the tag end, which would cause a gnarled mess. And now we're going to do 5. So now that we got our 5 loops, or however many you want to do, 5 is the recommended minimum. It's just easier that way and a little stronger. So now that we have that, so as you can already see, it's fighting me. We're going to take our tag end right here. We're going to go ahead and feed it back through the loop that we're holding. And yes, you gotta fight with it sometimes. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna pass that through. Now, what that will do is it will create this little loop right here. Now, what this loop will do is it'll allow us to put our tag end through here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the tag end. Since we went in the front on this loop, we're going to go in the back on this one. What that does is it allows you to maintain the strength and integrity of your knot. So you're going to come in through here. So as you guys can see, I just kind of sneak that back around. So now that you're tied in there, you kind of see that knot already forming by itself. Now, if you were doing this with mono, braid, fluorocarbon, any of the actual line, this would be where you would want to lubricate this particular part of your knot. If you don't, you do face the risk of it burning itself when you pull or cutting into itself, especially if it's braid, which will weaken your knot and lead to risk of it snapping when you need it to hold tight when you're fighting a fish in. So now we're going to go ahead and take our main line, and we're going to take the tag right here, and we're going to go ahead and give it a tug. So you can already see that knot is forming itself. So we're going to keep pulling that down. And see how it's already formed right there? So at this point, you can just take your main end and pin your tag right here. You can kind of just pull that. I like to take both of them and just kind of watch your hook there and just pull. And then once you have enough of that knot formed, you can just grab it here and pull. And now you've got this nice little buildup right here. Sorry, I blocked that with my fingers. But you have a nice little buildup, and it has a little bit of give right there. You can keep pulling until that gives way. Personally, I don't really care if it moves around like this in the water. To me, that just gives your bait more action and more actual lifelike presentation. So to me, it actually works in my favor. Fish tend to go after that which looks like it's wounded or moving, especially when they're hungry and they're chasing prey. That tends to be something that entices hits. And we're just going to pull on the tag at this point to make sure, as well as the lead. And there you have it. There's your improved clinch knot. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and take our handy dandy clippers or scissors. We're going to cut that tag off. And it now looks a lot cleaner. Won't get in the way of your bait presentation with this was a real hook. So with that done, we now have the improved clinch knot. And like I said, there are other ways of doing this. I will be doing a separate video on the various variations you can do with this. If you want to make it a little stronger, or you want to do it a little faster and cut out one of the steps, that is perfectly fine. It is up to you. A lot of times, even with the variations, this knot will hold. So let's go ahead and jump into the next part where we actually do this with our fishing line and fish hook. Be warned, guys, you guys already saw this poking me. This gets a lot crazier when we actually incorporate the fish hook. Make sure you are not stabbing yourself. It does not feel good. All right, guys, so now we're gonna start the practical part of this video. Like before, I've got my clippers for cutting my tag end. I've got my 4-pound monofilament from Isoline, and I've got my size 8 owner mosquito hook. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started now. So as before, we're gonna have our main line here, our tag end over here. And I do have tension on this just so it's easier to do. Move that out of the camera real quick. So now you guys can kind of see it's got tension there. We're gonna go ahead and take our tag end, take our hook. We're gonna feed it in through the back of that hook. Once again, this is my preference. If you feed in through the front of the hook, that's up to you, especially if you're left-handed. I just find this easier. Then again, I do tie knots right-handed, so. Now that I got that, I've got my tag end on top, my main line on the bottom. I'm holding the eyelet between my thumb and forefinger, as usual, to make sure that loop is formed. And now we're gonna do our 5 wraps. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. As you noticed, I was handing it off to my left hand between these two fingers just to hold it while I moved my hand around to catch it. To me, that's easier. Do whatever works for you guys. Now we're going to take our tag end. We're going to go through that loop we were holding. Alright, now we got that. I usually like to give it a small tug just to kind of narrow down the loop I've got to work with and give myself a little more line to work with. And now we're going to feed it in through the back of said loop. So when you go in the front, you want to feed it in through the back on the other side, just so it doesn't come apart on you. So as you guys can kind of see here, got that, caught the tag end. Gonna give that a little tug real quick. Alright, so now that's kind of sitting there, we're gonna lubricate the beginnings of our knot, just so there's no burning involved. Alright, now we're gonna go ahead and give it a tug, get that formally started. You guys can see I do have the beginnings of my knot right there. Lubricate that again. Like I said, I am paranoid when it comes to these. I've had too many of them snap or come loose. Gonna pull that right on the main line. Then we're gonna grab the tag end and the main line. And we're gonna go ahead and give them a tug if I can catch the tag end, because it doesn't want to cooperate. And what that does is it narrows it down for you to make that nice little block right there. You guys can kind of see that forming right there. And we're going to go ahead and tug on our main line again. And by this point, it should just kind of form itself. I know. Great explanation, Chris. I know, I'm sorry. But as you guys can kind of see, my knot is complete. There's no give on that tag end. It's nice and piled right there. And this knot is ready to go. Like I said, quick and easy. Not to mention, really, really strong. So, that is your improved clinch knot. Sorry, I wanted to come back and show you guys this with the tag end cut off because I actually forgot to do that. I am sorry. But it's just like in the other segment, you want to make sure you cut that tag so that when you do cast this, it does not get caught in a bunch of weeds or anything. Horrible presentation. Alright guys, so that is how you tie the improved clinch knot. Like I said, it's really easy, really quick, very good knot to start with if you are a beginner. I would honestly say that if you're just starting out and you don't want to get overly complicated, I would say it's a toss-up between the improved clinch knot and the uni knot for the easiest and strongest knot to start with. Personally, for my money, if you're just trying to tie a hook to a line, I would say the improved clinch knot would be the best way to learn. But if you're trying to learn a more universal knot, so you don't have to worry about keeping that knowledge up there when you're out on the lake, or worry about a bunch of different knots to tie, I would definitely make learning the uni knot as important, if not more important than this one, only because it is useful for tying your line to your reel as well as your hook to your line. But like I said, if I had to pick one to use for tying a hook to a line, the improved clinch knot is my go-to and has been for 5 or 6 years. So go ahead and keep practicing, guys. Hopefully you guys get the hang of it pretty quickly. I will be doing a video sometime in the near future where I cover the different variations. I think there's like 4? I don't know. I'll look into that more. I know I personally have used some of the variations and they're a lot harder to lose a fish on just because some of them go around the hook multiple times, but like I said, that's neither here nor there. That'll be its own separate video. Beyond that, tight knots and tight lines, guys. Keep practicing.